The rain began without warning, the kind that soaked shoes in seconds and turned the streets into mirrors of trembling light. People hurried past with collars up and eyes down, guarding their warmth and their time. Among them walked Ayan, his jacket thin, his steps careful, as though each one had to be chosen wisely. He counted the blocks left to the bus stop and wondered if today would be like the others, quiet, heavy, unanswered. He had not always measured his days this way. There had been a time when the future felt wide and generous, when plans came easily and mornings carried promise instead of weight. But loss has a way of shrinking horizons. A year earlier, illness had taken his mother quickly, like a candle blown out mid-sentence. Grief followed him into everything, his work, his friendships, even his sleep. When the job ended soon after, downsizing, they said, he told himself it was temporary. Temporary stretched into months. That evening, the bus was late. Ayan stood beneath the awning of a closed shop, watching rain stitch silver lines into the air. Near him sat an old man on a crate, a knitted cap pulled low, hands cupped around a paper cup that steamed faintly. His clothes were clean but worn, the kind that spoke of care taken with little. People passed him as they passed the rain, acknowledging it only by avoiding it. The old man looked up and smiled. It was an easy smile, one that arrived without asking anything in return. "Cold night," he said. Ayan nodded. Words felt like coins he needed to ration. The bus's headlights still hadn't appeared. "Name's Ilias," the man added, as if they were already acquainted. "I sell tea, when the weather allows. Tonight it doesn't." Ayan glanced at the cup. "Smells good." "Best thing I make," Ilias said. "Second best is listening." Ayan huffed a small laugh despite himself. The rain softened, thickened again. Time stretched. When the bus finally arrived, it hissed like a tired animal. Ayan hesitated, then reached into his pocket and placed a few bills into Ilias's cup. More than he could spare, less than he wanted to give. Ilias covered the cup with his palm. "Thank you," he said, and then, gently, "Come tomorrow. I'll make you tea." Ayan boarded the bus and found a seat by the window. The city slid past, blurred and glowing. The invitation echoed longer than he expected. He came the next day. And the next. They talked in fragments at first, about the rain, about the best way to keep hands warm, about nothing in particular. The tea was strong and sweet, the kind that made you feel anchored. Gradually, conversation widened. Ilias spoke of a life lived in many chapters, a childhood by a river, a shop once owned and lost, a marriage that ended not in anger but in exhaustion. He spoke without bitterness, as if he had learned to carry memory without letting it bruise him. Ayan found himself talking, too. About his mother's laugh, about the job that disappeared, about the gnawing sense that he had stepped out of rhythm with the world. Ilias listened the way good listeners do, without interruption, without trying to fix things, offering only the occasional nod that said, "I'm here." One evening, as dusk bruised the sky purple, a woman stopped at the crate. She was young, hair plastered to her face, eyes red. She fumbled for change and came up empty. "I'm sorry," she said. "I just needed something warm." Ilias poured a cup and handed it to her anyway. "You can pay me with a smile," he said. She tried, failed, then laughed at herself. "I'll pay it forward." Ayan watched the exchange with a curious ache. Something loosened in his chest, a knot he hadn't realized was there. Weeks passed. The rain gave way to brittle cold. Ayan began helping Ilias set up in the evenings, carrying the crate, fetching water. He started waking earlier, his days shaped by small responsibilities. He still hadn't found work, but the emptiness no longer pressed as hard. One night, a commotion broke out near the corner. A man stumbled, slipped on ice, and went down hard. People slowed, circled, then continued on. Ayan moved without thinking. He knelt, asked if the man could move, waved down help. Ilias followed with tea and calm words. An ambulance came. When it left, Ion's hands shook. "You did well," Ilias said. Ion stared at his palms. "I didn't plan to." "Kindness rarely is," Ilias replied. "It arrives disguised as impulse." The phrase stayed with Ion. He began noticing kindness in other guises: a shopkeeper who let a mother pay later, a student who gave up a seat, a stranger who returned a dropped wallet. They were small things, but together they formed a quiet resistance against despair. One afternoon, Ion received a call about a job interview. Temporary, part-time, nothing glamorous. He accepted immediately. When he told Ilias, the old man beamed. "See," he said. "Hope is patient." The job turned into more hours, then a contract. Ion's routine shifted again, but he still came for tea. The crate became a landmark in his life, a place where the world felt manageable. Winter deepened. One evening, Ilias didn't show. Ion waited, then waited longer. The next night, still nothing. On the third, he asked around. A shop owner shrugged. "Old man? Haven't seen him." Unease crawled up Ion's spine. He checked the clinic down the street, the shelter near the bridge. On the fourth day, he found Ilias in a hospital room that smelled of antiseptic and quiet. He was thinner, his smile tired. "Didn't mean to worry you," Ilias said. Ion swallowed. "You should have told me." "I didn't know how," Ilias replied. Pride is a stubborn thing. They talked in low voices. Ilias's heart, it seemed, had decided to complain. He would recover, the doctor said, but not return to the crate. It was time to rest. When Ion left, he felt the old weight pressing back in. The crate had been more than wood, it had been a promise that someone would be there. The following evening, Ion returned to the corner with a borrowed kettle and paper cups. He wasn't sure why. He brewed tea clumsily, burned his fingers, laughed at himself. People stopped, curious. He poured, he listened. He didn't charge. When someone tried to pay, he shook his head. Smile will do. The routine continued. Others joined, students, a retired nurse, a delivery driver who brought biscuits. The corner filled with warmth that had nothing to do with temperature. They talked about their days, about worries and hopes. The city felt less anonymous. When Ilias returned weeks later, walking slowly but smiling wide, he stopped short at the sight. "What is all this?" he asked. Ion grinned, nervous and proud. "Hope," he said. "Disguised as kindness." Ilias's eyes shone. Spring crept in. Blossoms dusted the sidewalks. Ion's job became permanent. He moved to a sunnier apartment. He visited the hospital less, the corner more. The crate returned, but it belonged to everyone now. One evening, as the light softened, a boy approached, hands jammed into his pockets. He hovered, uncertain. Ion poured him tea and waited. The boy took a sip, sighed. "My dad lost his job," he said suddenly. "My mom says it'll be okay." "I don't believe her." Ion thought of his own disbelief months earlier. He met the boy's eyes. "It's okay to not believe yet," he said. "Just don't stop showing up." The boy nodded, as if this were something he could hold. Later, as they cleaned up, Ion realized that hope hadn't returned all at once. It had arrived in pieces, carried by small acts and open hands. It had worn many faces, spoken softly, asked little. It had disguised itself as tea on a cold night, as listening, as a smile offered without expectation. He looked at the city, no longer blurred by rain. Lights flickered on, steady and sure. Somewhere inside him, something answered back.